Hi, I'm Brendan Fehr.
And I'm Majandra Delfino. A decade or two ago,
Closer to 3, really.
a while back, we starred in the cult hit WB show Roswell.
And while we are in fact ex-co-stars, we are also actual exes. In real life.
Boyfriend and girlfriend exes.
Unnecessary clarification. But welcome to the X-Files, where we analyze all things Roswell. Episodes, co-stars, guest stars, and all the goings-on in front of the camera and behind the scenes.
In our probe, we may or may not agree, we may or may not get along, but if our history is any indication, we will most certainly dig up old stuff from the past and throw down. With guests, old and new, weighing in on who was right and who was wrong.
Oh, if we remember it, we're going to talk about it.
And if we don't remember, it's all good, because I kept my teenage diary to cross-reference, corroborate, confirm.
Wait, what?
Correct. So be prepared to pick a side.
Your actual diary, like, for real.
Having a change of heart?
More like a change of underwear.
Welcome
to the X-Files. Happy holidays.
If people knew what you're saying to me before, just so mean, so low tone, then presses record. It's like, hey! I'm a little Canadian cheerleader.
What is that even?
Otherwise, is it fucking grump?
So not a grump. Happy holidays. You want to?
Happy holidays.
How are they going? How was Thanksgiving?
Oh, glorious. So thankful. We had to go around the table and say what we were thankful for. I said this podcast.
No, you didn't.
Not even close.
I love how I'm like, no, you didn't. Did you?
Did you say I'm a nice person?
Really? Yeah, did you?
What about you?
It was good. Pretty low key. And then, kind of gearing up for Christmas and the holidays. Just had to buy a new fridge. The freezer railings broke. And then each railing is like $160. Like, so you got to buy two. They don't come in a pack. You got to buy the left and the right separately. So it's like $320 just for railings. And the ice maker doesn't work anyways. So you're just like, why spend $320 on railings when you can buy a fridge for $1,000? Right?
I mean, I guess we had, and now this is not going to be very relatable. But
she's like, when our Lamborghini broke down.
So not the first Lamborghini, but the second, the backup. No. Well, kind of. We have 2 washers and dryers because, I have so many kids. I have 2 kids that I know of. And the washer, something was happening, whatever. And I could not fix it to save my life because, I like to try. And the guy comes, whatever, he has to undo the steam thing. But he basically says, he says, this thing in about a year, both these dryers are going to be so loud, you're going to need to replace them. And I was like, oh, wait,
based on
what is it?
Sound?
Does it not dry when is it? He's like, no, it's just, you're going to have to close the door. It's going to be loud. And he was trying to get me to replace them now. Like, why pay for this thing right now if in a year they're going to be loud? And that is just shocking to me. Like, that we expect that's the state of a lifespan on our appliances, that we're like, get a new one. But I guess, he's looking at this bitch with 2 washers and dryers.
Totally. But just based on being loud, like, it's not that they're not functioning. They are functioning. Like, the freezer doesn't function and it doesn't make ice. So then we're 320. So then to fix the ice maker is probably, let's say 150.
No, that makes sense. And
so, but that's where you just go like, I'm spending 600 more, but I mean, what else is going to go? So I still might keep the fridge, the one we're getting rid of, and maybe just, garage fridge.
Oh, yeah.
Even if the freezer doesn't work, like, who cares?
Fill it up with spindrifts.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is a little bit of a
departure.
Yeah, it's the holidays, and we thought we'd do a little special episode of answering questions and taking comments from y'all.
We wanted to address some things.
And I think people wanted to address things with us as well.
Oh, a lot of addressing. People had some things to say. I would like to just start off the top with my favorite comment of all time. I am not sure how to listen. And that was my mother.
Yeah, Mary Hellmond has one here. I'm not, that's exactly, that was word for word. I am not sure how to listen.
That's right. And I
Mary.
think she means as a mother.
She's like, I'm not sure how to take this.
She's like, what is active listening? Yeah, no. She truly just didn't know how to listen to a podcast. So we took care of that. But yeah, we wanted to see people's questions, concerns, feedback. And so here we are.
Nina Davidson, at Nina Davidson, I would imagine. The diary entries are the best.
That was nice.
Thanks for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Nina.
Right?
I really suffered. Got a real cramped hand once in a while.
We have Brendan is a ding dong.
No, that's from our girl.
Yeah, I know. That's Mug Mama Ness, which is fine. And it's true. Here's one from Deli GZN. Deli_GZN. Why are you always picking on Brendan? It seems a bit mean. Thank you.
I know, I
I'm
agree.
finally seen.
Agreed.
Deli sees me.
Deli Gizen.
Deli
We see you,
Gizen.
we hear you, and we are an ally.
Okay, the first one, I think that there is a few on here from the one and only Pac-Man. Says, what made you guys decide to go out of order with the episodes? And then there was another one
We get that
from
question
Raymond A. Garcia. Kind of bothers me that you're going out of order with the episodes, but that's just me. So there's a few in there like that. And
Not just you, Raymond.
It's not just you, Raymond.
Yeah, it's funny. We do love our brand of chaos. And so it felt appropriately chaotic. I think also when we were trying to find the right guests and work with everyone's schedule and things like that, it felt organic to actually go out of order and go with an episode that best suits the person. Because we did kick it off with Patrick Norris, and it felt right doing a Patrick Norris episode instead of the pilot. And that kind of just got things rolling, and we liked how out of order it was because it confuses us as well, where we're like, wait, where was I? What was I? And so it just forces us to have to dig a little deeper, as opposed to neatly laying it out.
Which we also don't do. Forces us to dig a little deeper.
That's as deep as we get.
Yeah, I think it was important for us to, we definitely wanted Patrick Norris on early and first. And, like you said, to give him an episode that he didn't direct or wasn't a part of doesn't really make a lot of sense. Now, we could have recorded that and then gone, we could record them and kind of keep them shoved away, handpicking those episodes. But, the pilot is one where, ultimately it would be amazing to get like Kadam's on to, discuss that. Or someone who was really involved, someone who was involved with that at the time, a Fox executive or a WB, executive, why they picked it up. And so I think people handpicking them for people becomes, it's an in, right? It becomes easy to talk about. You get more behind the scenes because you were there. If we're going to get someone on the show that wasn't in that particular episode, they're not going to have any stories about that episode.
That's right.
Doesn't make a lot of sense.
We are a independently produced, free source of entertainment, but we don't have someone reaching out and all of this and that. It's us and our best efforts to pin these people down, and we don't want to be beholden to someone else's schedule and not be providing podcast episodes. So we thought, okay, maybe this actually works. It's chaotic, it's organic, and it's all we've got.
That's true. But I did it. We do like our brand of chaos. It's a controlled chaos of sorts, but we seem to thrive in that. So there you go. That's why we're doing it that way. We like it, surprises us. And I think it also, while it may bother people, every other podcast is doing that. And
Exactly.
so it just felt like everyone in the dog has a podcast. We understand that. And so you're trying to do a podcast that is going to stand out in some way, shape, or form. And we justified it that way as well, because we're not really interested in doing it like everybody else necessarily. Is that good? Is that
like
bad?
I think that's great.
Decide.
Someone very nicely said the other day on something like this on another podcast. They said, we're not in customer service. We're just making an artistic thing, and we're not an Amazon cart. We're doing our best. And this just worked out this way, and that's the way we're going. And as far as guests, we want everyone on. We really, really do.
That's a lot of them as well. Looking on here, when is Nick Wexler going to be on? There is Nicole Monica 11. Please have Jason on for the White Room episode. Loved him in this one. We've contacted Jay. We agree. Will be.
We want him on
doing it at this point, and we gave him the pick of the episode. And he hasn't gotten back to us yet as to what that'll be, but that's going to be. We gave him that option, so we're excited to find out what he chooses.
And we've reached out to a few other people, a lot of other people that I think will be very exciting, and it's just about getting them in.
Yeah, obviously we want everyone that was on the show to be a part of it, from the regular cast: Jason, Nick, Sherry, Katie, Sadler. You know what I mean? Getting a hold of him, and then I
want to see Joey Pants. Where's Octavia?
Joey Pants. Where's Octavia? Exactly. The Heitner. You know what I mean? Steve Heitner and all those things. So we're slowly reaching out. So we will have. We want to hear from those people too, as much as you guys do, to catch up and to hear their thoughts on it. So we'll definitely, we'll reach out, and then we'll
keep on keeping on. But believe me, we're trying.
Do you have one there you want to?
Yeah. Maybe this one's a little too emotional, but it says production scandals besides Brendan Kadams or Brendan kissing everyone. By the way, Brendan kissing everyone was not a scandal. Everyone was just fine with it.
That's Millennium Girl.
Millennium Girl, my girl.
Production scandals. It's me. Yeah, it's the pee in the pants incident was a bit of a scandal.
Yeah, it's funny because I feel like at the time there was a few other angsty teen shows that maybe had some bad behavior on set, and sometimes we get like pulled into that. But we were a bunch of nerds. We would play Monopoly. I didn't even understand that like alcohol was an option yet. Was it though?
Yeah, I think we give ourselves.
We weren't.
I mean, were we brats? Like, to a certain degree? Sure. You're 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. We were working long hours. You get bored. There's some on-set romances. And it becomes
no one's like getting drunk or doing drugs. Like,
and we hung out and we got along. Like, we weren't. I mean, if you want to, I've seen way more toxic, awful behavior since then on a number of movies and other projects I've done. And while we play up the fact that, we were a little bratty, and, I can speak for myself that I was a bit of an asshole and went about things the way I shouldn't, it's pretty minor in the sense of what people were doing and what people did do on other shows and other productions. So,
and it's funny,
we get a little bit of a bad rap for it.
But
it just doesn't really jive with. And sure, you're going to get someone who came on the show and didn't have a great experience. 100%. That's, from a director to a guest star and everything else. And that's unfortunate. But I think it was more because we were just, no one was malicious or.
But I think it's almost that it's because we were the majority of us were too tight, that a guest star could feel kind of left out.
100%.
Because it was so like getting along like gangbusters. Are we allowed to say that? Is that rapey?
Gangbusters?
Let me know in the next questions and answer episode.
I think we can. Yeah, I think that's okay.
You know what's funny, Brendan, that I was thinking about? I think it's hard not to, when you're not like part of some world, like let's just say it's like about doctors or whatever, the medical field. It's hard not to feel like everything's sort of interconnected. And while we were these kind of dorks that were like late bloomers, there were people that we hung out with on other shows who had cast members on their show that did some really gnarly things. And sometimes I think that gets like put on us, but we were truly just clueless. I still lived with my parents, and
doesn't mean you couldn't be a bad person though. But you just weren't. It just wasn't like that.
I didn't know we were saying whether we're good people. No, I'm kidding. No, meaning we weren't wild. Like there was no.
No, I mean, for the most part, you know, Patrick and Jonathan, you know, kind of touched on it, that someone was, you know, ran a little late, you know, and maybe wasn't as prepared as they should be. And that is, you know, a big no-no. That's kind of your only job. Show up on time and know your lines. But nothing you know, there's nothing scandalous going on. There's nothing, for the most part, I think we could have had, I mean, I'm glad we didn't, but we could have had social media being filmed and recorded and all that stuff. And I don't think anyone's getting canceled for anything they
could have recorded us all day on a Nokia.
Because, and we all did get along. I mean, you know, the Unroyal Four, me, you, Jason, and Nick, I mean, we talk, you know, we hang out at cons. It's
I know. Well, that's what's so funny is that we would go hang out.
There's a little bit of a stink on us as a cast, and I don't know why that is.
Well, I kind of like it. It makes us seem cooler, but it is like we do have to come clean. But, you know, we if this says anything, we would shoot all day, very, very long hours, and still hang out on the weekend. I mean, that tells you everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Not doing drugs.
Yeah, James M. Zaz says, I want to know who you bought a stripper for.
What a turn, Brendan. We're like, we were so well behaved. And then it's like, now let's answer who we got the stripper for. Just
the one we put in a trunk and buried way out in Aqua Dulce.
Exactly.
We haven't decided. We have decided.
We're deciding in real time right now. It's happening.
Yeah, whether we're going to have them on. We have to ask them if they're cool to talk about it. And
but just know we're gonna have them on, and that might be like the big fun reveal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Again, Dana Fell 319. Are you going to have any of the Roswell cast on your show? Yes. Please have Max and Liz and Sheriff Valenti on the show from Kiki de la Cruz. And then here's Christina Monlios. Very curious who didn't know their lines, but no, that wouldn't be chill to tell. And again, honestly, like I said, I didn't ever. I'm not entirely sure who they were talking about. I think I know just based on process of elimination, but I don't recall that ever being an issue with any of my scene partners.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I there was, you know, I dealt with you and I dealt with Jason and Katie a lot. And that's, you know, and obviously, you know, Shiri would be in a scene with us, you know, because you would be, there's a lot of scenes with all of us in them. And I'm not saying that to be.
Shiri was on it.
I'm not being, and I'm not trying to be like politically correct. I actually don't kind of know.
We were shocked when we heard that. And then I don't know about you, but when we found that out, I immediately was like, needed to know if that person they were speaking of was in the room, aka it wasn't me.
It wasn't.
And we got comfort. Well, you never know, right? Like, it's funny how you can remember things and think like, oh, I was being so professional. And they were like, you know, it turns out I'm an idiot. But confirmation professional on time, knew my lines. Same with you.
Yeah, it does feel like a bit of a scandalous, like I said, like we have some stigma of being difficult. And I just, looking back, not really, not for the age we were and not for what we were doing and going through. So
there may
anyways.
have been things at play that we were unaware of, and we were just too emotionally immature to even understand things could be. You know, we were just like off doing our thing, and maybe there were tense things happening. I have no idea, but I was pretty nosy. I feel like I would have known.
Totally.
You get bored while they're setting up the lighting.
Unkempt and Wandering. Will there be a second episode of Baron and Toluca, or did I miss it? Love the first one. So the link we all send you guys, because we get this question a lot, is a 71-minute piece of art.
Yes, thank you.
But that's technically 2 episodes. We were looking at doing like a 35-minute episode show. It's all fluid, but those are the 2 episodes. Will we be getting another one on top of that? That is what we are still actively working on. Aside from this process, along with this podcast, not in conjunction with this podcast, but
it was interesting because you said like process, and it sounded like some sort of conjunction word of between podcast and process, and I liked it.
Oh, thank you. How long would it take for one episode to film, and who brought the best snacks from Neko Beards? I don't think anyone, no one was bringing, there's no snacks being brought.
I'm going to say we didn't bring snacks.
Yeah, craft services, we were well fed, and
Very
craft
well-fed.
services was
Some
great.
would say too fed.
Yeah, some would say too much orange juice.
Listen, sometimes we would go in and they'd say no. I did have, I'm not going to say who, but I remember I had someone who worked, behind the camera, tell me it was time to tighten it up. Tighten her up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. I did not.
Brendan, he wasn't working that day.
I was just standing behind the camera,
exactly,
looking at her in front of the camera going, you got to tighten this up.
Tighten it up.
Tighten it up.
Tighten it up.
One episode was 8 days. So we would do 5 days on set. We were on Paramount. This is generally 5 to 6 days on set, I believe. And that's where Roswell, that's where the Crashdown was on set, that Roswell High was on set with the hallways. They would obviously, the UFO museum was on set. So they would build all those sets. And then we would do 2 to 3 days on location, whether that was Covina, outside, or Agua Dulce, or kind of wherever the case may be. But it was an 8-day shoot, 5 to 6 on set and 2 to 3 on location. And the general working hours, from Monday you'd start at 6 and you'd go to 8, and then Tuesday, and because we need a 12-hour turnaround per union rules, Tuesday would then be 8 to 10. Wednesday would be 10 to 12. Thursday would be 12 to 2, and Friday would be like 2 to 4. And they would get that back kind of initially, because if I needed a 12-hour turnaround because I was the last scene of the day, then they would just start with an actor earlier that had finished up earlier. So, but generally Fridays, Fraturdays is what we'd call them, and we'd be there 3, 4 in the morning. A lot of times, driving back from Covina or Agua Dulce, they were crazy, crazy long hours. So that was, so there's only so much trouble you can get into as well, working. Like, I remember on the weekends going like, how am I going to grocery shop? How am I going to get these things done? Because you arrive home Saturday and you sleep till 12, Saturday. And then you got kind of till 5, 6 p.m. before shit closes, whether it's the mail or bills to pay or whatever else. And then Sunday, everything was kind of closed. There wasn't, places you had to run errands or do things for necessarily weren't open to make those phone calls. And then you start back up on Monday. So it's like, I remember our weekends were always very, very short.
Yeah, and I think there's a misconception that we have some sort of team or assistants or things like that. And definitely don't.
No. For the ep, hope you do the dupes, the prom, and some more mid-end season 1. I mean, we're going to do all the eps.
Oh, yeah.
We got 60... I always forget. We got 63 episodes. And we'll probably go even past that. Just into what format and what will we be talking about? I don't know. But we'll be doing all the eps. And we're trying to save... This is the other thing. We're trying to save the eps for certain people that we think would be very nice. So it's that's also another reason why we're going out of order, is because there's certain people we can't get right now. That's going to be later on. So why are you smiling like that?
Because when you said we're waiting for people that we thought would be very nice.
I'm a couple podcasts behind, but what did you think of the Eminem storyline for season 3? And that's that Dilly again. I don't recall season 3 Eminem storyline. We have to watch more of those episodes. So can't really answer that one.
Yeah, this is what's good about us rewatching this, is these things get refreshed and then we have opinions loosely held. Right now, I've got none on that storyline because I'm not quite so sure what it was.
Exactly. And then Film Buff 1022, did you hear what Larry Trillian said on the Dear Felicity podcast about working on Roswell? Briefly, I think he had mentioned that it wasn't that fun to be on because we didn't get along. And again,
there we go again.
Or something like that. Yeah. And that, again, doesn't feel... I mean, was there some tension sometimes? Like, were me and Majandra fighting at that point?
By the way, that's such a good point. Imagine if just the 2 that he directed, because he only directed 2, was 2 episodes where it was just like a really bad breakup.
Totally. That's what it was. Yeah, he's probably like, I never want to...
He's like, ooh,
I don't want to direct the show ever again.
Chilly environment. Yeah.
But yeah, he directed Chant Down Babylon was the last one he directed, which was, I believe that was episode 14 of season 3. And so we only had 18 that season. So we were towards the end. And I think we were tired, and there was probably some sense of
impending doom.
Yeah, and not being as appreciative, and people looking forward to to the hiatus and to kind of moving on, and you set yourself up, if we don't know we're going to get picked up, which we all had, like Majandra just said, that sense of impending doom, where there's just this kind of malaise isn't quite the right word, but just like fuck, type attitude. And so which I don't think is great, but we definitely all got along. I mean, again, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it just seems...
I will say...
And I'm sorry he didn't enjoy himself, and I'm sorry he had that experience, because that kind of sucks.
Sorry, Larry. Sorry, Larry. Sorry if I slapped Brendan across the face in front of me. No. I do think there is something to be said that doesn't get enough weight in the matter, is just how frustrating it was being on that show from a creative standpoint, because I think we all just collectively knew we were in the presence of someone, we were in the presence of Jason Katims and David Nutter, who kicked it off, and all these visionaries, if you will. And it just was noted to death every season. And the first season was so great. And to have something to hold something like that, and then just have it constantly be fiddled with and essentially, I mean, I don't want to say destroyed, but season 3 and season 1, vastly different. To see that, to feel so protective and love something that much like we all did, and do all the things they wanted and put more leather on and all of that and start chasing aliens and still not feel like it was enough, and then have fans constantly save us and show that it was enough, but have the suits, if you will, always keep us in this state of fear, was sucked. It was not like a great place to be. I think for us, it was fine because we're just like these cute little dumb young actors. But there may have been some tension there that makes
Yeah.
absolute sense.
Yeah. I mean, I was
That's
new.
just my opinion.
Right, but
Don't
I was also I
don't
was also
implicate
new.
Brendan.
I didn't know if I was going to do this for the rest of my life. I was going to go be a math teacher, if I wasn't going to be the biggest movie star in the world, blah blah blah. I was also just naive to the whole process, and like how difficult it was to stay on the air and what was required. And I didn't know all the politics, the behind the scenes stuff. Didn't really pay attention to it. Didn't have the kind of knowledge I have now. But that being said, you do get a sense of when there's some tension and when the show is scrambling and when, one person at the network likes you, but one doesn't, and changes that are happening. You do get a sense of kind of the uneasiness of it. And I don't know what the kind of conversations that was going down between, Kadams in the networks, but you have some creators, like we talked about in Tim's episode in Busfield, where he was like, Marshall and Ed were just like, fuck it, we're doing it our way. Like, we're not going to show you first drafts. We're not going to do this. We're doing this, right? They kind of have that say and they fight for that. Whereas, Kadam's, that's not his personality. And if they would have just let him do something. So I'm wondering if he did get pushed around. Like, you needed someone like a Nutter to stay on board.
Right.
To be like, no.
There was also, it was a different time when 30-something was on. Back when I was on the Tony Danza show. I mean, two just totally comparable. But meaning, they left you alone. Like, they just left the creator alone, the showrunner alone. And they started to meddle more and more and more. And I think Kadams was in that sort of arc of it becoming a much more studio exec involved world, and did need someone to protect him for sure, because Kadams is best left alone writing and creating. But it was unprecedented, and it was just this constant thing of, well, what if you guys do this? And if you don't, you're not coming back. And all I know is this. I was obsessed with being cool then. It was all about, the 90s, and you're just like anti-establishment, and just everything has to be authentic and cool. I started off on a cool show, and I ended up on a show that did not resemble what it started. It was still cool, but not just in that profound Jason Kadams way that it was season 1. And all I know is that Jason Kadams went on to still be able to do cool things, because that's obviously who was under there the whole time. And the little cheap grabs that we all had to do in hopes of maintaining an audience or getting a bigger audience was full just studio involvement.
Yeah, and that's how it felt. It was like, and
meddling.
Yeah, and it felt like the show, not because of the people on the show, but because of the meddling. It felt like the show didn't have integrity. It felt like it didn't have, this cohesiveness of kind of, one
letting
voice.
It be. Right. Exactly.
Of letting it be. And we felt that. And so, that's not, it's a little demoralizing walking onto a set knowing that, that you're just like, oh, what, like, it's not that we had better ideas. It was just, it wasn't like on a per episode basis or a per scene basis. It was more of this amorphous, this feeling that we were always in scramble mode. And it was never just like, we never just got to sit in something that was really working. It was, and
right. We didn't have the ideas. We certainly didn't even pretend to, but we knew that Kadams and the writers and exec producers did. And we saw it. It had already been proven, and it just felt like, leave these people alone. And what's funny too is that is such a painful thing to have to actually take those notes and implement them and not walk away from the show. And it's amazing. They all rolled with it. I would have had some sort of mental breakdown.
Yeah. All right. Enough of that, I guess.
Yeah.
But we still loved it. It's still one of the most, it's still, again, there's a reason we're doing this podcast. It's one of the most amazing,
Agreed.
memorable experiences of my entire life. And it's something that I cherish. And it's like, if anyone else bashes the show, I'm going to, punch your face in. But, but we get to a little bit because we were on it. We're not that we're bashing it. But we do have our grievances with how things went on. But it was almost no one on the show. It was all, outside kind of interference. Anyways.
Right, exactly. It felt like it started one way and went in a different direction. And while we were happy to roll with it, I realize now that it was a bit of a violation.
Yeah. Granola Macarola. Can guests be linked to watch?
What a turn.
Can guests be linked to watch originally aired episode? It makes a difference. We can't give you a link to it, but we do announce the episode on the Monday before the podcast on our Instagram. And the show, I don't know in other countries, but in the US and possibly Canada, Roswell can be found on Hulu. So we Monday we announce what episode we're going. So tune into our Instagram for that, the xfiles.podcast. And you can watch the show beforehand or just even later on in the week. When the podcast is announced, you don't have to watch it immediately. That would be nice. But we can't send you an actual link. We can't share passwords.
Yeah. Now, I think this is a great segue to Nicole Monica 11. Talk on the original versus replaced music on streaming. This changes the vibe for me. Nicole Monica, it changes the vibe for all of us.
Yeah. And while I don't necessarily remember all the original songs, I do remember how
awesome it was.
No, yeah, it really was awesome. No, I only paused there because, and we've talked about it a little bit.
That this was just a licensing issue. This was a show made in a time where no one imagined something like Netflix becoming a thing or streaming. So this is just a matter of legal stuff. But bit of a bummer.
Yeah, because you do grow attached. I mean, they did such a good job of scoring and putting scenes to songs. And even if they weren't necessarily my cup of tea, even if it was a band or a song that I was going to go buy the CD of, it always just, it made the scene. It was, it was part of the scene, and you can almost feel what songs, if you gave me a quiz, I probably wouldn't be able to answer what original songs were, in and taken out and replaced with what song and everything else. But you can feel it, where even watching these back, I'm just like, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Something's off about this particular song and scene right now for me. And I'd be curious if my spidey sense could kind of sense that, because it was so well done. And it was a time where you weren't consuming as much content as you are now, right? You had your, Thursday night was, Friends and Seinfeld. My Wednesday nights when I was a kid before I was on Roswell was, 90210 and Melrose Place. That was the Wednesday, right? You went over to my buddies and that's what we were watching. We loved it. And you had those time, you had to be home. You wanted to be home from volleyball practice or whatever you were doing, because you couldn't just tape it, right? You could tape it, but
just painting such a picture of this volleyball guy who's gotta get home to Melrose Place. Sorry, go on.
You couldn't just, again, like I've said, you couldn't just, fire up your computer and watch it on a streaming show. If you didn't watch it and you didn't tape it, you were fucked. And so I think because of that, because you had to put so much work and effort into scheduling that into your show, we absorbed it differently. Like we
Right.
really took it in. And so, another ramble of mine, but those songs then really stood out because you are taking it in on a deeper level, and those songs are then attached to those scenes. And
The
it's
songs that we can't name one
the good
of.
old days.
But, it really, I mean, I remember in my so-called life, like, so well, the minute the song started and what song, and
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're bummed about that. Do you feel Roswell could have had more seasons after the 3 that were aired? That is Callie Coupon Chick. Speaking for myself, I had, a certain amount of heat on me at that time. I was kind of, one of the young, for lack of a better term, stars of Hollywood, where I had opportunities ahead of me. I think I was looking forward to other opportunities, like being in movies, not understanding really how fortunate and lucky I was. And part of that is just kind of was being cocky and arrogant, but part of it was just being naive as well, not understanding how really how fortunate I was. I kind of fell into this, and I fell into it in a big way really early on and fast. And so I don't really, while I regret that, I don't know if I didn't have the capacity to understand. I wasn't in the business long enough. I didn't have that kind of experience. And so I was kind of glad it was ending in a way, because then I had an opportunity to do something else. But I think it definitely could have gone on. And looking back, I wish it would have gone on. But I also don't know if I don't know if Jason again would have continued with kind of the behind the scenes, like we had just, recently talked about the politics and the interference of the studio network. I don't know if it was fun for him anymore. So, and when you lose that guy, what does the show become after that? Because, he was so much a part of the show. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think also it's so in writers and actors and these artists in their nature to constantly be doing new things. So I know novelty is a huge inspiration for people. So I wonder if a 4th season may have been too much of the same thing.
I'm wondering if Jason had, if it would have gone on for a 4th, like I said, this is just kind of me spitballing. I'm wondering if Jason would have been a part of it. I'm wondering if he would have gone on to do something else and they handed it off to Ron Moore.
Right.
I don't know, but all right. Moving on. Which co-star do you wish you had more screen time with from Traveling Pants and Pineapples?
Of course, Nick Wexler. He's so fun.
Yeah.
Hey, Maria and Kyle weren't the tightest.
I would, like I said, I always enjoyed my scenes with Shiri because there was always a certain amount of tension there because Michael and Liz did not get along. So that was always an interesting dynamic. Even if I didn't get along with Kyle or Alex as much, Shiri was the one that I think Michael always, it started with her, right? Where Max had to save her and basically put us all in danger. I don't think that was always a thorn in my side with her, that, with that character, that she was the one that put us in danger, even though it was Max who made that decision. So that was always fun to have that tension. But yeah, Nick's a good one. And Alex, Alex is, that would just be such a different, an interesting dynamic. I mean, he did punch me out twice in the show, I believe.
Yeah.
Which I think I respected him for it. But him, him being one of your best friend, you Liz and Alex, and me kind of always, Michael always doing something wrong or mistreating you or not reading the signs, not knowing your love language. You probably vented to Alex. And so I think there was an opportunity there. And they used it well, where, he punches me out those 2 times, but kind of Again, a little.
Such a dork tingles when you said don't know your love language. Next question. At what point, this is Mick Rose, 105. At what point during season 2 were you guys like, what the WTF is going on with this show? Which storyline? Yeah, am I having a tough time recalling the storylines? Sure.
I know. I'm looking something up right now because I'm like...
I think once the skin stuff happened and then you've got like Miko's, I love Miko Hughes, but the character that's where I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, the skin stuff, I think, with Courtney was interesting.
But it went out of control. It went into a hole. I just remember being like, wait, what?
Yeah, when it started getting, like, part of the charm of this show, you're always going to have those relationships. Part of what made us different was that sci-fi aspect. So I love that they wanted to keep that in there and put that in there, and we are aliens, and you are going to have... The stakes can be the small things, like the relationships and the misunderstandings and the betrayals and everything else. But the reason those stakes can survive is because you have the bigger stakes of living a life and death situation, constantly of being exposed and chased by the FBI. And so it makes it a much bigger world, that sci-fi world. It makes it more interesting. There's so many more colors and instruments to paint with. But I think you want to keep it as grounded as you can. And I'm not sure we did that. I think we kind of did. We lost ourselves in the sci-fi a little bit. And it felt for this, the problem was it was for the sake of the sci-fi. It was like, let's get sci-fi in here instead of let's use sci-fi to our advantage. I think we were hoping the sci-fi would save us.
Right.
I don't know. I know what I'm trying to say. I don't know.
No, I know exactly what you're saying. I felt like it just came on too strong suddenly.
Mm-hmm. Maria says, segment with the MVP of the episode for each of you.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, we could throw that in there if we remember.
Yeah.
This one? Me.
Every time.
Even when...
Yourself every time. Millennium Girl asked, this is a tough one, who is most like their character, who is least like their character? Oof.
Back then. Let's go back then.
Yeah, it's got to be back then. I think maybe most like their character is Jason and Max, because Jason was responsible. Like he understood responsibility and routine and a bit of a leader in that way.
Yeah, I would say so. Katie didn't have Katie was so fun, and again, that laugh is just like it's such a great laugh, and we heard it so often. Isabel didn't get to do that a lot. So that stands out to me as not being, I don't think she's the least like her character, but I'm just kind of walking through everybody. She was just so much more smiley and fun in life.
Yeah.
Always kind of fun to be around, and Isabel wasn't necessarily. So, Nick, maybe. I think Colin was like Alex. He's probably pretty close.
Yeah, Shiri wasn't like Liz at all.
No, Shiri wasn't like Liz.
Trying to think.
I mean, I thought you were that
enthusiastic.
High
energy.
High energy.
And then you saw that.
Yeah, that's
to,
definitely
power down.
I know. Yeah, that's definitely not you. So I would say you might be the least like yours, and especially now. You're just dead weight over there. Real wet blanket.
Yeah. I just power down right now. I'm like, and my hour's done. Do you feel like you were the most, you and Michael?
I wouldn't say the most. I think Max and Jason are closer. But I certainly identified with him a lot. Whether I was like that in real life, I did identify with him a lot.
Hmm.
All right. Well, this will probably be the last one for now. We'll do this again at some juncture. Mozzie.Dean. When you all filmed when Alex died, how emotional was it since the real actor was leaving the show? I didn't hang out with Alex or with Colin that much.
I know you don't even acknowledge his real name.
I know he wasn't really in like my spheres. Like we got along when we were on the show, but our conversations were kind of limited just to hockey. Which you thought would have brought us kind of closer together, since he's a true fan and he was knowledgeable and we could talk about it. But I just, for whatever reason, we never, not that we didn't get along, we never like clicked. Like we wouldn't seek each other out. And so, and I didn't spend a lot of time with him character wise either. And so when he kind of left, it wasn't that emotional for me, because I was just like, oh, he's going, like we killed him off. Like I didn't have any scenes with him anyways. And he's going on to do, a movie, like good for him. And then obviously the Michael character wasn't that close to him. I was probably more sad for Maria as a character of Michael than I was, unfortunately I was probably more concerned, I should say, for Maria than I was about anything else. Is
right. Makes sense.
Kind of my take on it.
Yeah, it was
kind
sad.
of makes me look like an asshole, or sound like an asshole. But
I think that, first of all, Colin was sort of in and out. Like he wasn't constantly there in the sense like how the rest of us were. And so it did make sense that you guys wouldn't have much overlap. It was just so upsetting to me to lose Alex, period. And then it did have just this crazy feeling of like Colin was graduating and the rest of us were not. And it felt like your big brother's going to college or whatever. It was sad in that way. And yeah, there's something a little bit morose about being like, I have to pretend like my friend is dead. And that Tess was the person behind it. All of that was like kind of heavy. But yeah, it was kind of sad. It was also a sad thing of like, oh, we're killing people now. Like, oh my God, we're getting rid of people on this show via death. Had some severity to it. But I also did have a very different approach to work and my place on the show. I did sort of live in fear of being fired.
Yeah,
replaced.
I definitely was not in fear of being fired. And I think, having thought about it now, I think I liked the fact that they killed him off, in the sense of it does raise the stakes. It does mean no one's safe, even though I didn't fear for my job. But I think in terms of storytelling for the audience, I thought it was really great. Because it did raise the stakes, and you can't kill off. No one cares if you kill off characters no one cares about, and that's what TV shows always did, right? They were like, who's expendable? Like who does no one really care about? We'll kill him. Who does no one like? Let's kill him. And they didn't really mean anything. It only means something if you kill off one of the main characters or someone like that really doesn't deserve to die, or that's, really endeared themselves to the fans and is an integral part of the storyline. And I think, Alex was, and I think to kill him off, I thought my first thing was just like, that's great for the show. Like, it sucks for the show because we're losing a talent, but it's a good, great. It's good. Right? I mean, listen, last episode, I wanted to kill off Hansen. I wanted to give him a bigger storyline first, but I wanted to kill him off. I think, good kills are, they're powerful storytelling tools.
They really are.
And speaking of kills, I think we've killed enough time with this one. Huh?
Didn't realize we were on that we were killing time.
No. I was just
this is what he says
trying
at
to
the
be
end
clever
of every
with a
time he hangs
segue.
out
I'm
with
sorry.
me. Every time he's done, Every time he comes and hangs with me, he says, I think I've killed enough time, yeah?
Have I entertained you enough?
Yeah.
But okay, those are some of your questions, and we'll do this again throughout the season.
That was fun. And
yeah, thanks everyone for sending them in, and we
Yes.
answered them as best we could. There is one more. Head Richards 96. Do you sign fan mail? If not, how can one go about respectably getting your autograph? You don't even have to go about it respectfully. Respectably. We do sign fan mail. We do have a P.O. box. It's here. P.O. Box 2295, Corrales, New Mexico, 87048. So if you want to send a self-addressed stamped envelope to that with a photo in it, then...
And that's either to Brendan Fehr or Majandra Delfino.
Yep. Or even
But
B&T.
no.
Works.
Or B&T, but no one else. Like, you can't put, like, Nick Wexler.
Yeah. But me and Majandra, and you can always Dan at baronandtoluca.com. You can ask there, and then we can arrange that.
Yeah. All right. Well,
nothing like
this was lovely.
This was lovely.
This was very lovely. And we'll be back to our regularly
scheduled programs.
Programming?
Yeah.
What was the word that you came up with earlier? Processing. Anyway, we'll be back, and I'm sure more questions will come up, and we'll pop in here and there and address them.
Yes, and we got to do it. YouTube, click subscribe. Please rate the podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast. Makes it easier for us, rate it 5 stars. And if you're not going to rate it 5, then don't rate it anything at all.
Why?
You know what I mean?
Why rate it?
Why?
It's not going to change the format.
Just don't listen to
it's
it
not
anymore.
going to get someone on faster. Give us a break.
But thank you, everyone, for reaching out with those questions. We can't wait to do more for you. And yes, we're going to be having all your favorites on. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned. That's it. That's my contribution.
Is that how you're signing? Okay. Yeah. And that's how we're signing off. Stay tuned.
And yeah. No, are we signing off? Just can't sign off.
I know. We cannot. We're just okay.
Wait, there's actually one more. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, happy holidays to you, Mo. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
I will see you soon. And again, thank you all. Okay.
Oh, boy.
We should just get off now for sure.
Please. The X-Files with Majandra Delfino
and Brendan Fehr is a production of Portholes Inc. Media.
Edited and mixed by Stephen Wells.
The music by Fred Corey.